everyone. Semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Had a little piece of beef hanging around my tongue there. Had to get rid of it. But welcome to the Friday afternoon live stream. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. We've got Kismet's been in the house for a while waiting on this. I'm glad you're here. Go ahead and say hello in the comments. Let me know that that you can hear me, because that's always a big thing. Making sure I'm not just talking to empty air. And John has arrived. Hello, John. I'm glad you're here. Still waiting to make sure somebody says that they can hear me. I'm sure you can. I tested the mic and everything before I started, but you never know from the time you test everything to the time you hit the go live button, things can go wrong with technology. Thanks, John. I appreciate you. I appreciate you chiming in. Hello, Rick. How are you doing today? Twinbrook Acres is here already, and John Boston is here as well. And yes, you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a quick reminder, when I look over this way, I'm not actually ignoring you. This is where my big screen is, so I can see you guys. I still got to get this thing rearranged, but have so many things going on, I just haven't gotten around to it. Carno Dane can hear from the UK. Hello, UK. I'm glad you're here. And Jason is here from Just Jason Keto. And Rick is doing good, trying to get work done at home. Yes. So let me know if you're, I've seen a few people from Ohio that have been complaining about the smoke coming out of Canada. Let me know if you're in one of those zones that's getting the smoke from up north. We, of course, don't have any of that here because I'm much further west than that. And Studebaker Larry. Hello, Studebaker Larry. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. But, let's see here. And Kismet just said, y'all don't forget to hit the like button. The algorithm will send these videos out to more people who are searching for health and diet information. Yes, thank you very much. If everyone in here hits the like button, that'll drive more views to us. Maybe we'll get some more questions. But the topic of the day is the July challenge. Now, everybody's doing a walking challenge. And we're no different here, but we're going to do it a little bit different. I'm not going to say let's go try and, walk 10,000 steps a day or 15,000 steps or whatever, because everybody's at a different point in their journey. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say try to get a 20-minute walk in. Just 20 minutes every day. I'm going to try and get an extra 20-minute walk in every day as well, on top of everything else that I'm doing. We'll see how I feel. I went out and got a walk in today, and I still have to go to work this afternoon. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. But I've come up with a plan as well. For those of you that are still at the double movement stage, basically what I mean by that is you're at the stage in your journey where if you're going from the couch to the kitchen to get a drink of water, instead of just standing up from the couch and going to the kitchen to get your drink of water, you stand up from the couch, then you sit back down, and then you stand back up again, then you go get your water. That's what I mean double movement. If you go to the restroom, you take care of your business, you get up to leave, then you sit back down on the toilet, and then you stand back up again. That's double movement. Every time you do that, if that's your primary source of exercise, give yourself 100 steps for that. If you're in the advanced stages of, like me, doing your own yard work, if you record your steps while you're cutting the grass, if you're pushing a mower, you get double credit for those steps. If you're doing even heavier yard work, like, say, moving mulch or dirt around with a shovel and a wheelbarrow, you get triple credit for those. Yes, indeed. So every day, I'm not going to say, I want to get 10,000 steps a day from the channel, or 20,000 or 100. We're not going to do all that. I'm just curious to see where we as a channel can get for the month of July. And if you have a job like mine where you're standing behind a counter waiting on customers or doing whatever it is, basically, if you're doing a job where you stand for an hour, give yourself a couple thousand steps credit for doing that. And anything else, if you go to the gym and do your upper body workout day, I leave that up to you. Decide how many steps you think that's worth and report that down in the comments of every day's video. And we'll just kind of keep track of how many steps we're getting as a community. Where are we going to end up at? I don't know. It's not that important. I thought it'd be kind of fun to keep track of how many steps we get as a channel in a day. And then for the month of July, because it's all about functional movement. Coach Bronson talks about functional movement a lot on his channel. And, I always talk about your why. Why are we doing this? Is it, for me, I want to through hike the Appalachian Trail in 2025. I also want to be able to start building my own house down on my homestead this winter. There's a lot of things I want to be able to do. Well, there's a certain level of fitness I need to do any of those things that I want to do. For you, it might just be getting down on the floor and playing with your grandkids, or it might be, taking your dog for a walk. Whatever your why is, you know why you're doing it, and now you need some kind of a fitness plan to decide and figure out how you're going to get to where you need to be to fulfill your why, if that makes any sense at all. But that's what the July challenge is all about. It's something fun for us to keep track of while we work our way through the heat of the worst of the summer. So that's what we're going to do. Let me get back to the comments here. I think I already did that one. Yep. Canada's complaining about smoke coming out of Canada. Imagine being in the same province it's coming from. Yep. I'm not sure how the fires got started up there so early, but I'm glad you're still doing okay up there, Jason. Kathy, hi, Bob. My first live. I have a question. Excellent. How long is it safe to keep bacon grease on the stove in a container? I don't think there is a length on that. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Maybe somebody in the comments will have more insight on that. I remember my mom had it was like a little clay crock that she kept on the side of the stove. And it was forever getting added to and taken from and added to and taken from. I don't know exactly how long it gets good for. I would just say if you take the lid off of your bacon grease and there's bugs in it or it smells funny, it's probably time to throw it away. But I don't know that bacon grease actually goes bad, especially if you're keeping it in a proper bacon grease container inside the temperature control of your house. Now, if you're like me and spend half the year living in a 5x10 cargo trailer where it gets blazing hot inside there sometimes, then you might have to look at it a little closer and keep track of it. But I don't know if there's a limit to how long you can actually keep bacon grease for. I never keep it long enough for it to go bad. After I've saved up enough in the container, it ends up going right back in my skillet, so it's constantly getting rotated. That's my thoughts on it. If anybody has any other guidance for Kathy, be sure and jump in the comments and let us know. Thank you for liking and sharing Just Jason. I don't know why I said just Jason. I know your name's Jason. And Kismed. I like to refrigerate it, then it's easier to scoop with a spoon. It melts easy enough. There we go. There's Sardine Boy Craig is in the house. Yeah. Let's see video of that, Craig. You record a video of you eating an entire case of sardines, and I'll add that into one of my videos and show the world that, yes, somebody really can eat a whole case of sardines. I didn't get it recorded, but I did actually have one of my cans of sardines today because it's, it'd been a couple weeks since I had any, and Craig was nice enough to send me the case, so I did have a can of sardines today with my almost 2 pounds of ground beef. I mixed them in there like I used to mix my tuna in, and it was okay. Still not my favorite meal in the world, but Craig was nice enough to send those to me. I will eat them. Just takes a while. As long as you drain out all the little pieces of bacon, it will last forever. Thanks, John. There you go. And I don't strain mine, but if I'm frying stuff in bacon grease, I don't usually save that. The place I save the bacon grease from is whenever I make a whole package of bacon, either in the air fryer or baking it in the oven. The grease always drops down into the lower container underneath the parchment paper in the rack that I've got it on, so the grease stays very clean. Just like in the air fryer, the grease that gets caught in that is very clean, and that's the type of bacon grease I dump into my container, just like when I do my my fried beef fat chunks that I start in the skillet and then finish them in the air fryer. That fat that comes off of them down into the drip tray on my air fryer, that goes into my tallow jar because that's pure gold tallow. There's nothing in that but tallow. There's no chunks or anything in it. And I'm guessing tallow's probably about the same. It'll pretty much last forever as long as there's no other stuff in it. Because, in looking at making pemmican, it's the fat that you add to the pemmican that makes the powderized meat hold its shape and stay good for an extended period of time. I'm told decades is how long pemmican will last. So I don't think fat actually goes bad, but I could be completely wrong. So don't quote me on that. I'm certainly no expert on anything having to do with the kitchen. Sandra is here. Doing okay in Michigan. Have a great 4th of July. God bless. Yes, don't forget, guys, the 4th of July is coming up. It's awesome. I'm actually going up to a friend's house. They had always done a 4th of July party at their house where, we got together and cooked burgers and hot dogs, and they made all of the sides, and we spent all day eating and then lunched off fireworks. Well, then 2020 happened, and because they have small kids, they canceled the party that year and didn't have it last year. Didn't have it in 2020, 2021, or 2022, but they're restarting the party this year, so I'm excited to see them because I haven't seen them since 2019. Because they're good friends. We just don't get together very often because we all have different lives, but I'm excited to go see them. That should be a good time. And people saying hello to others. Let's see here. Okay, since I have lost 50 pounds, the inflammation in my joints have greatly reduced. Any idea what foods are a great contributor to inflammation issues? It varies from person to person. Obviously, carbs, sugar, those are known inflammatories. Some people react to veggies differently, and it could be certain types of dairy as well. That can be inflammatory for some people. If you really want to explore this, I would add a single food back at a time. Like if you really like, not that anybody should actually like broccoli, but if you really like broccoli, I'm sorry if broccoli is one of the things you miss, but if you want to add broccoli back in, add broccoli in, just broccoli. Try it for a couple of days and then wait a week and see if you have any inflammatory issues. I mean, if you've had any of the inflammation issues I have where your hands hurt or any of your other joints, if broccoli was the cause, you'll find out very quickly that makes you hurt. So I would pick one food and add it back in. If you're very happy with what you're eating now and the inflammation's gone away, I wouldn't worry about it. But, if you're looking to try other things, I mean, For some people, certain types of fish can be inflammatory. I don't know who those people are, but they're anything. Some people don't do well on pork, others do. Some people don't do well on chicken breasts because they're so lean. Others don't do well with chicken fat. It's just very, very variable from one person to the next. Obviously, the sugar, the carbs, the seed oils, those are all inflammatory for everybody to some degree. You may want to play around with dairy a little bit. There aren't many people that have a reaction to butter, but if you're still getting a little reaction, I don't know how to do it. I mean, it's very easy. As far as I know, there's many videos on YouTube on how to make your own ghee if you don't want to buy the ghee from the store, because that can be a little expensive. You just buy butter, it's dirt cheap, and make your own ghee. Give that a try. But some people do okay with like heavy whipping cream. Some people don't. It's very different from one person to the next. So all I can really say is just give it a try and see what happens. And Karsten is here. Hello, Karsten. How you doing today? I'm glad you're here. Craig, Bob, I've been to 4 grocery stores today. My step counter says 2,032 steps just from shopping. I will go for a walk this evening after it cools off, and that'll be another 6,000 steps or so. Yep. Excellent. I got out and walked a little bit this morning as an experiment because I have to go to work tonight. I only got about 1,600 steps in. I was going to go a little farther. I walked up to that stop sign at the top of the hill, and I was going to go a little bit further, but then there was a guy running lawn stuff a little ways up, and that was starting to get loud. And when I went back down the hill, there was a yard sale going on down the street from me. So I said, okay, that's enough of an experiment, because I haven't been walking at all on Friday and Saturday because I have to go to work and stand 4 hours on Friday, 7.5 to 8.5 hours on Saturday. So I tried just a little bit of a walk today, and then if I still feel okay tomorrow, I'll go out for more of a walk tomorrow. Even though, tomorrow is actually the 1st of July. I have the 1st of July's and the 2nd of July's videos already recorded and uploaded, waiting to be released. So big double thumbs up for Bob finally getting caught up and ahead a little bit on videos. So I've got a little bit of breathing room, because I got behind when I first got home from North Carolina 2.5-3 months ago, and I just never gotten caught up. And it's been a real struggle to, get out in the morning, get a walk in, record the video, get it edited and uploaded and all set up to be released. I've been getting that done between a half hour and 45 minutes before it's set to release. So it's been kind of a frantic stressor to get the video out every day. And now that I'm ahead by a few days, I'm hoping to stay there. So yeah, just make sure everybody goes down in the comments on every day's video and just leaves me, even if it's just 3,000 steps with no explanation beside of it, just leave me a little comment about what you've got. I've got a great big sheet started here where I'm going to keep track of everything on a daily basis and a weekly basis. And then on probably Saturday's videos, or maybe in the Friday live stream, I'll let everybody know what we're up to as a group every Friday. And then I'll make a video at the end of the month to let everybody know what we did as a group for the entire month. Like I said, there's no specific goal in mind. And if you miss a day because you live in one of the smoky zones or whatever it is, don't worry about it. This is not a challenge. Just, it's an excuse to get us out there and get us moving. And people saying hello. Carno Dane, does coffee cause inflammation? That is a very good question. For some people, it does. For me, it does not. I did, and I'm going to do another month, probably August. I've been slowly starting to cut down how much coffee I put in my filter. So I've been making my coffee weaker and weaker. And sometime middle of July, 1st of August, it's going to be weak enough that I can go for another month without coffee. I did that back in October. If some of you that have been around for a while know that, I did that, and it just, I noticed no difference in myself. Some people have reaction because coffee is a plant, and if they can have some reactions to, I don't remember what bad stuff is in coffee, but Dr. Chafee has a whole video on that if you want to go watch that. But I've never had any reaction to coffee. But since that was back in October, I figure it's about time to give it another try, go a month without coffee, and see if I notice any difference this time. Because I did not notice a difference when I went coffee-free for October. We've got a super chat. Homesick Buckeye. OH to my Buckeye friend. That gets an I-O. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much. YouTube user. Hello, everyone. I came in late and rewound to the start. Just ate 2.5 pounds of beef mince. I'm guessing you're either in the UK or somewhere in Europe because you called it beef mince, where we call it ground beef over here in the States. Prepared it in 4 batches in my oven as my cheap 6-month-old IKEA 2-plate hob gave up. Okay. Well, however you have to do it, there's nothing wrong with ground beef. I had ground beef myself just a little while ago. I did have a can of sardines mixed into it. But, so it was about 1 3/4 pounds of ground beef and a can of sardines. And that's what I had. And I had to choke down the last couple of bites. So I was full. Or it may have been the sardines making me feel full. Hard to say, but that's. There's nothing wrong with that. But welcome to the stream. And John says, "Hi, Bob. I've gotten 7,100 steps in so far today. Plan on another 3,400 this evening. Excellent. Yeah, and on days I'm not doing other stuff, between 10 and 15,000 is where I try to get to, but I haven't because it's been, really hot and nasty, and I've still been adjusting to standing at work. I haven't been doing a lot of walking on Friday and Saturday. I have been doing my stretching exercises, and I've been doing some push-ups and some wall pull-ups, some upper body stuff those days, but I did go out and get a little walk in already today, which is actually July the 2nd's video that I recorded today. So yes, absolutely. Everybody get out there and get some kind of movement in. Like I said, it doesn't have to be steps. If you're doing some kind of workout with weights or whatever, I'll leave it up to you to decide how many steps that's worth. I've had a lot of heavy lifting and walking planned for the summer, but we've had nothing but rain since early May. It kind of put a damper on my plans. We have not. And that's why I took a walk yesterday and took another walk today, is I haven't had cut my grass in almost 3 weeks. It's been so dry. I am going to have to cut it. Well, I'm hoping I get it cut either Sunday or Monday because it's supposed to rain again tonight through tomorrow morning. So hopefully we get some more rain. It finishes rejuvenating the grass and then it dries out. I like to let it dry out before I cut it because I don't like the cleaning the mower because you had to cut wet grass and that sticks to everything underneath the mower and it's a pain in the rear end to get all cleaned out. So I like to let it dry. Hopefully I'll get it done. It looks like it could go a whole nother week without mowing it, but there are a few of the more resilient weeds that have grown taller. So I would like to get those cut so that the whole lawn is kind of leveled out and take the top layer of brown off of it because you can see the green coming up underneath of it. But yeah, if you've had nothing but rain, that's tough. And 3,800 steps today, 20 minutes twice. Excellent. And hello, Becky came in late. Are we doing a walking challenge? Yes, we're doing a walking challenge, but it's not really a challenge. It's just take a 20-minute walk in the evening or morning or whenever and report how many steps you get. To briefly recap what I went over earlier, if you're cutting your grass, you get double credit for the steps while pushing a mower. If you're doing heavy yard work that requires a shovel and a wheelbarrow, whether it be dirt or mulch or whatever, you get triple credit for those steps. And we're just keeping track over the course of the month, reporting in every day what you got done. And we'll just see where we're at. I haven't set any specific goal. We're just going to see how many steps as a channel we can accumulate over the course of July. It's about functional fitness, starting to get some movement in. And if you do other workouts, you get to decide how many steps that's worth. So if you go to the gym and do, 10 reps of 200-pound bench presses, you can decide how many steps that's worth and just record that every day in the video comments. I'll be keeping track, and we'll report our progress every Friday in the live stream, and then do another video at the end of the month to let everybody know how we did for the month. I have some reactions to coffee happened after I was exposed to mold. See, and some people do get reactions to coffee. Some people get reactions to other things. It's variable from one person to the next. I keep my bacon drippings in a covered ceramic mug next to the stove. I've never had an issue with it going bad. However, I clean it out every 2 weeks just to be safe. Okay, there's that one. Oh, and there we go. Bob, I forgot, did you fast on every Friday when you were in North Carolina? Thank you. Not really. It was not so much on Fridays. I ended up fasting more on Sundays because I was cooking inside the church. And I didn't want to eat before church because I didn't want to, have the smell of my cooking in the building where the teens meet. And then by the time church was over, and then there was a break in between, and then afternoon church and any other activities that were going on, it would sometimes be 4 or 5 o'clock before I could get into the kitchen. So Sunday is the day I usually just didn't eat when I was down in North Carolina. Okay, gotta have coffee. And, I sort of agree with you, Larry. I don't necessarily drink coffee for my health. I know it's not good for me. But as I've always said on this channel, I drink coffee for the health of those I come in contact with on a daily basis. Let's see here. I normally walk 45 minutes, but yesterday I was listening to Ready, Set, Keto, and I walked an hour. Yay me. Yeah, and that's good too. Walking an hour, if you don't have a tracking device, just figure up about how many steps it takes you to walk 10 minutes and then multiply that out and keep track of your steps that way. Here, could you elaborate on 1% better every day? Absolutely. 1% better every day. It started off with just me walking down to the corner and back, and then just walking a few steps further every day. But it doesn't necessarily have to be your walking or your exercise. It can be anything. Because I talk about this a lot because, everybody stalls. If you're only looking at your force exerted on the scale as your mark of progress, whether it be in this or in life, then you're going to have days that you stall. But not just about weight loss and diet, but when I say be 1% better, I'm talking about everything. If you are a spiritual person like I am and you read your Bible every day, read 1% more of your Bible. If you're a crafty person and you're doing crocheting or knitting or whatever, do 1% more of that. If you're reading books, whether it be fiction or nonfiction or self-help or whatever, read 1% more. As long as you're progressing in other areas of your life, I say you will never have a stall because you will be progressing in something. You may be stuck on the scale at certain numbers for, we'll look at Carnivore Quest. Poor Larry's been basically the same weight for a year now. Well, if he wasn't doing other things, the non-scale victories, as we say in this community, if he wasn't doing other things, he could possibly feel like a failure. And that's not the case. And that's what I mean when I say get 1% better every day, whether it be through what you're eating or what exercise you're doing or anything you're working on to improve yourself, whether it be, like I said, reading the Bible, reading a book, learning a new skill, whatever it is. As long as you're progressing in something, you're getting 1% better every day. And is it okay to count our steps in thousands? Yeah, just make sure you make a note of it, so that I know how to keep track of stuff, because I'm going to do that. Because, some people, like back when I first started, it was probably maybe 200 steps or so down to the corner and back. And that doesn't seem like a big that doesn't seem like a big thing now, but looking back to how much I struggled to get those 300 steps in back in September, that was a big, big deal. So everybody's at a different point in their journey. So however you count them is perfectly okay. There. Do you think one should fast? Okay. Why would you think a person would be stuck at a certain weight? Do you think one should fast to break through that plateau? Thanks. This is a really good question. And the answer to that is maybe. You can try a lot of different things. You can try fasting for an extra day. You can try doing an egg fast or a water fast, or you can try eating more. You can try upping the fat. You can try lowering the fat. I know Larry at Carnivore Quest has done all of those things, and he is still stuck. It could just be that his body has decided to heal something. It may be invisible. It may not be something that you can see or even feel. Like, would you really know if your hip bones had gotten brittle because of malnutrition over the last 20 years, but now you've gotten other stuff out of the way and your body is diligently working to strengthen your hip bones? And that can take months, whether it be your hip bones or your femur or your humerus or whatever bone it is that it's fixing. You might not notice that. The only time you would notice that it was weak is if you fell down and broke something. And, so it could be any number of things. The other thing to do is Dr. Barry has a video, I believe it's called 13 Reasons Why Your Weight Might Stall. Because there are a lot of things out there that can stall your weight loss. Make sure you investigate all 13 of those very thoroughly. And if it's none of those, then your body may just be repairing something. But you can attempt to try a fast, although many people that have fasted have found that it ended up being a little bit of water weight or something that ended up coming off, and they were just dehydrated. And after they said, okay, the scale's moving again, they ate something, they drank something, and then all of a sudden their weight came back to where it was. So I would just be conscious, if you're still having cheese or any other kind of dairy, that's obviously the first answer I would give. If you're having something other than lion diet, beef, salt, water with its associated fat. If you're having something other than that, you may try that for a couple of weeks and see what happens, because there may be something in your carnivore diet, whether it be the sardines that Craig loves so much or whatever it is. There may be something that you're sensitive to that's causing a little bit of inflammation and causing you to hold on to something. That's about as good as I can answer that question without a lot of specifics. Thousands. Yes, you can count them in thousands. Like I said, if you're at the point where just standing up is still work for you, go ahead and give yourself 100 steps of credit just for standing up every time you stand up during the day. Were you able to work before carnivore improvements? Oop, camera focus. There you go. Well, I was working right up to the point I had heart surgery 5.5 years ago. I was an over-the-road truck driver. And then because my sternum did not heal correctly, I took a local delivery job. Basically, I went in at 4:30 in the morning and drove a preloaded van 100 miles out to the west, backed up to a door. They came out, they unloaded it, and I drove the van back to town empty. And that was my job for several years until it no longer was. I ended up leaving that job when I started Carnivore. It was actually a little bit before that, but because I had left that job and went down to Florida. Well, that first year I went to New Orleans to get Mom's house sold. And then I went over to North Carolina and spent several months in North Carolina avoiding the winter of Omaha. And then I came back and did not go back to work. So, yeah, and I have always worked at the miniature golf course, even that summer right after my heart surgery, because Dave, the owner of the place, is a friend of mine, and he wanted to make sure I was still getting out of the house to do stuff. I do more now. I do more this year than I've done in the past 5 years, but he had it set up for me so that I could just come in. He even bought a brand new adjustable chair for me to sit in so that I could come in, sit down behind the counter, and talk to people as they came in, because on a busy Friday or Saturday night, having somebody that had been there for 30 years and knows what's going on is a very big bonus, even if I couldn't do a whole lot besides just sit there and talk to the customers. And he was really nice and kept me around to do that. And now I'm actually working again at the miniature golf course, just 4 hours on Friday and between 7 and 8.5 hours on Saturday, depending on the weather and the crowd. It's a little on the variable side, but it feels good to get out of the house and do that kind of stuff just a little bit. But I have no intention of going back to work full time, just in case people were wondering. Yes, and that's okay. You're allowed to joke here, unless you're Craig. Then you're banned from joking for the next month. Bob, this may seem elementary to you. How do we know if we have inflammation? What are the signs and symptoms? In what body parts would we feel it? The term is used a lot with no explanation. This is actually a very good question, and it's kind of hard to answer, but inappropriate inflammation versus real inflammation that's necessary. When we injure ourselves, your body will create inflammation. You know how if you bang your knee on something, you get a little swelling there. If you stub your toe, you'll get a little swelling. Or you're lifting something wrong and you tweak your shoulder and it feels kind of hot to the touch. That's acute inflammation that happens on a regular basis. It's part of the body's healing process. Inappropriate inflammation happens when our body is always in an inflammatory state, which means basically we're holding on to water, extra fluid somewhere in our body because we have created that inflammation response somewhere in our body, whatever that inflammation response might be. Some people manifest in, like with me, my hands. If I do something stupid and start to get some inflammation, my hands will feel tight or my feet will feel tight. Usually it's in the joints, but sometimes it can be in your muscles. It's really hard to say. The best way to find out if you have some inflammation that you're holding on to, fast for a day and drink nothing but water. And if you're holding on to inappropriate inflammation, if you fast for 24 hours, drinking nothing but water and electrolytes added to that water, let's just say you will go to the restroom many, many times in the second half of that 24 hours. And that could be a signal that you did have a little inflammation going on. As far as that goes, but basically, you know you have inflammation if something doesn't feel right, whether it be your joints getting tight, maybe your eyes are a little blurry, or you're having trouble focusing on something. There's a lot of things that can be signs of inappropriate inflammation. There's nothing specifically. I wish I could tell you, that this is definitely the thing to do. Now, you can, if you want to go to the doctor, have them test your CRP, which is C-reactive protein. And the C-reactive protein will be elevated if you have inflammation somewhere in your body. The problem is that C-reactive protein marker will not tell you where that inflammation is. So then you'll have to get a bunch of other labs to find out where the inflammation is. Basically, just like everything else that I talk about in this way of eating, I go more on how I feel. Do you feel good or do you not feel good? And that's what I base everything on. Some days, if I eat a little too much or a little bit too little, I don't think I've ever eaten too much. But if I eat not quite enough, or I forget to take my electrolytes or something like that, it'll be like, wow, why does my shoulder hurt today? And then I'll go, oh, I forgot to put the daily minerals in my coffee yesterday morning. But that is a good question. And Nathan agreed with me. That was a very good question. Bob, you made me think of something of why I stalled in the past. I was not sleeping. And then when I started sleeping better, I lost 4 pounds in 2 weeks. Yes, sleep. Sleep, definitely. Definitely. That's why, I did the whole blue blocking experiment. And the glasses are back over there, so I can't pick them up and show them to you. But I did the whole blue blocking thing, getting out in the morning sun, grounding. I've talked about that in several videos. And I do believe that really did help my sleep a lot. And getting better sleep can sometimes break you out of a stall if you've been in a stall. I'm stuck at the same weight, but I also have inflammation. So I give up the coffee and hope my body is fixing itself before losing it again. Yeah, and that's, if coffee is the only thing that you're having besides a strict carnivore diet, it's sad, but you might have to try giving up the coffee. Or if you're having a full carnivore diet where you're eating, fish and chicken and pork and all of the other things, you might try either beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for 30 days, or you might try a full lion diet, which is just meat with its associated fat, salt, and water, plus the coffee on either of those, to see if perhaps you can get something moving again without giving up the coffee. And then once you've done all that and nothing still worked, then unfortunately you're probably going to have to give up the coffee for a week and see if that's it, or the coffee for a month, and see what you can come up with there, because it's so variable for every individual. You just never know what's going to do it for you. If pork, which I love, is causing me inflammation, could my body become used to it so I can eat it? Yeah. For those that have been following my channel for a while, you'll remember last fall, I went through a period of about 3.5 months where eggs were making me sick to my stomach. So I used to eat a ton of eggs. I got to the point where they were not making me feel good. They were causing inflammation, all of that. I gave up the eggs for about 3 months, and now I'm back. I had yesterday's meal was a dozen eggs. That's what I had for my meal yesterday, a dozen scrambled eggs. So it is possible. Basically, if you think it might be the pork, cut the pork out for a month. And if you feel better, leave it out for a couple of months and then come back in with bacon. Bacon is always the first pork I would add back in. And then, some fatty pork chops, pork belly or some good pork chops with a good chunk of fat on them. And if you're having pork that doesn't have a lot of fat with it, make sure you're cooking it in lard or bacon grease and maybe even adding butter to it to make sure you're getting an appropriate amount of fat with it, because that could be a lot of the problem too. You might just be not getting enough fat if you have pork on a regular basis. Just something to try. Are you at your ideal weight? And I went from, and leveled off. And maybe talking, that may be a question for him. Yeah, and once you're at your ideal weight, things change again too. That's not necessarily true, Craig. Maybe for you, but that's not necessarily true. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's false. In fact, it was very funny because Professor K got back from vacation and did a live stream yesterday. And somebody asked him a question about the sardine challenges and sardine fast that everybody was doing, and if he had any thoughts on it. And his only comment is, I won't be doing that anytime soon. And I agree with Professor K on this point. If you're human and anything aches, swells, or feels odd, you have inflammation. That's a pretty simple explanation. Yep. I went on a fast, did some soup broth with some extra salt, and was able to fast for a couple of days. Excellent. Dwayne, blood work is like taking a picture of a car, but you don't know if it works until you turn the key and drive. How you feel and function is driving the car. Yes, absolutely. Let's see here. Nice one. Cheers, Bob. Okay. Got about a stone to lose. I don't know what that is. I'm an American. I'm a dumb American. All I know is American stuff. But I think stone is that 20 pounds? I don't know. But I certainly hope you lose it. Just keep sticking with it. It will eventually come off. It may take a lot longer than you expect it to, or it may come off a lot quicker. Could it be caffeine and not coffee that's giving folks trouble? It could be. You could try decaf coffee, see if that makes a difference. But if you're going to have decaf coffee, why bother? That's just my personal opinion on it. BDB 75. It's like the iceberg. I think we can have inflammation, even no real symptoms. But if you're overweight or cannot move easily, you eat the American Standard diet, you surely could have it. Yes. Absolutely. You can try to test do carnivore for only 3 days, and it will help you feel the difference. Yes, but if you're just starting carnivore, I wouldn't go to all the trouble of transitioning over the course of 30 to 60 days and then only doing it for 3 days, because anytime you change your diet. Now, everybody that's watched my channel knows that I did not transition. I was standard American diet one day and carnivore diet the next. I have since learned that this is a bad idea, because anytime you change your diet from one thing to another thing rapidly, it upsets your gut microbiome. And as I can attest to, when your gut microbiome is upset, you have things go wrong. Like for me, I had several days of, let's just say I had to go to the bathroom urgently and explosively. And we'll leave it at that. So I don't recommend that. I recommend anytime you're going to change your diet from one thing to another, you do it slowly over the course of at least 30 days, if not 60, depending on how much sugar you're having in a day. Cut it down very, very slowly. And you will lessen the effects of upsetting your gut microbiome. You're less likely to have keto flu symptoms, which is, feeling tired, wrung out, draggy. It's basically flu-like symptoms that you can get. So, yes, don't change your diet overnight. If you haven't started yet, take your time, do it properly, and you'll have far less issues than I did. Thank you for the great explanation on inflammation. How does that differ from arthritis? My thumb joints are sore. Is it inflammation or arthritis? It's probably a little bit of both, because if you look at arthritis is basically just the joints themselves swelling. So all arthritis is inflammation in the joint. So it's arthritis and inflammation are basically the same thing, unless you have, advanced rheumatoid arthritis or advanced osteoarthritis, where you can actually see that people's fingers starting to twist out of place and all that. But if it's just joint pain, it's inflammation. Many doctors will call it arthritis, and it is technically arthritis because it's swelling in the joints, but it's inflammation. And you can get rid of it. In your case, it's probably too many sardines, Craig. I don't have any problems with coffee. There's so much cream in it that it could not possibly hurt me. Yeah, I can't make a whole lot of comments about cream in coffee because I come from an Army background. I've always had my coffee black. My dad was in the Navy. He always drank his coffee black. My granddad on my mom's side was in the Navy. My mom was in the Navy. I had a lot of uncles that were in the Navy. I ended up being in the Army, but I come from a long line of people that drink their coffee black. So I never got hooked into the whole cream thing. So there's not even a stitch of cream in this house. So I can't really comment on how much cream people are using. Here, arthritis is a disorder that affects the joints. Inflammation drives it. Yeah, that's I will give that true. I was listening to Intentional Carnivore. He did 2 small meals per day instead of OMAD. I wonder if that would be better to resume. Okay. There is a lot of debate about this, but I think Professor K has ended that debate. If you're going to try 2 meals a day, because I do eat twice a day sometimes now because of all the extra stuff I'm doing, I just get hungry. But I still try to get 1 big meal a day to get that insulin spike. Let's call it an insulin surge, because an insulin spike is what you get from sugar, where your insulin does that. But you do need some type of insulin surge every day because you want insulin in your system. It's your primary hormone. It does a whole lot more than regulate your fat storage versus fat burning. It helps promote, all of your other hormones like testosterone. That seems like a good one that we'd like to have plenty of. And it also, if you go back and watch, there's a video out there with Bronson Dant talking to Professor K, and he explains it really well in that one about how keto can be dangerous if you do it wrong. And he was saying something about the kidneys, that you need the surge of insulin every day that you are eating. You want to get that surge of insulin because it does something to keep the kidneys functioning properly. So I don't see anything wrong with 2 meals a day, but I would not take my normal 1 meal a day, cut it in half, if you're going to divide it up into 2 meals, you might go 75-25, just to make sure you're still getting that good insulin surge to do all the things that you need to do. And go look for that video. I believe it's on Coach Bronson's channel, but it might be on Professor K's channel. But it's, if you search Professor K, Coach Bronson, doing it wrong, it should pop up, and watch that video, because Professor K has a very good explanation of why you need that insulin surge every day, which is why he recommends that you get the majority of your protein in a day in one bolus, which means one sit down and eat. And talking sardines, arthritis inflammation shows up and hurts without much of a clear trigger. But going carnivore has reduced my arthritis, autoimmune issues, and other problems are all greatly reduced. Yeah, and me too. You know, I've done this example many, many times. Besides, you know, my full body arthritis and my spinal stenosis and all that, the day I started carnivore, this was about the best fist I could make. Cover my eyes so my camera will focus on that. Maybe, yeah, that was about as good a fist as I could make, because my fingers just wouldn't bend. And now my hands work just fine. That was arthritis, inflammation, all that stuff. It went away very quickly when I started the carnivore diet. And Twin Brook Lady says, if coffee was supposed to have cream in it, the cream would be in the bean. Yes, I'm with you on that one. Absolutely. But, you know, I'm not going to get down on people, however they like their coffee. You know, I certainly can't get mad at people for having coffee. Oh, that's a little on the cold side, but it's still tasty. I cannot get upset with people having coffee. We got just a couple minutes left, so if you have any other quick questions or comments, now's the time to get them in. I have not been writing messages much, but listening while welding. Well, you certainly get some steps credit for welding, because welding is a physical activity. Even if, you know, it is. Absolutely. Don't forget to figure out how much welding you did, and get yourself some steps credit for that, Rick. That's a good one, Twin. Yes, let's put that one up there. That's a good one to leave at the bottom of the stream as we close this out. Don't forget to record your steps, or at least, and again, you don't have to record your actual steps. Like I said, if you're doing something like standing or working out or doing yard work or whatever, you decide how many steps credit that is, and just report it every day at the bottom of the video, and we'll keep track. There's no specific goal in mind. We're just going to keep track of it for a month to see what kind of a total we can come up with. I just got a few good comments. My whole life seems physical. I rarely sit still. How much butter or fat should we eat? I have a ribeye and a pork joint. It varies on an individual. Now, you can tell you've reached the one thing that you can tell. This is not a pleasant way to figure it out, but our body has a very specific ability to use the fat that you put in it when you eat. That's determined by how much bile your gallbladder will hold. And it holds a certain amount, and when you eat a bolus of fat, it squeezes it out to start breaking down the fats. And anything that you eat that you do not have the bile to use and absorb, it will come out in those bathroom problems that we talked about earlier. So you can tell that you've reached the absolute upper limit of how much fat you can have in a sitting by if, you know, you eat more fat and you have to run to the restroom a few hours later, because it runs right through you. So other than that, all I can say is just keep playing with how much you're putting on your food. up the fat, lower the fat. Find that spot where you feel best. I always say start at a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio, which is, as you're looking at your plate, about 7/8 of the plate should be the lean meat and 1/8 of it should be the fat. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. And I wouldn't go over about a 2-to-1 ratio. Somewhere, most people are going to land somewhere between the 1.5 to 1 3/4 to 1 ratio fat to protein is where they're going to feel their best. So don't adjust it every day. Adjust it for a week, see how you feel. Then adjust it for a week and see how you feel. And you will eventually find that sweet spot for you. And then I find Gerald Steiner mineral water helps with fasting and hunger pains. Thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate that very much. Nice. I'll give that a go, Bob. You're a star. I don't know about that. Thank you very much. Let's see what we got here. Face, fuchsia, white eyes. I don't know what all that means. It must be something in YouTube, because I don't see the emojis that come up in StreamYard. I see Dr. Westman just related. Yeah, and you have to understand that Dr. Westman is still in academia. He's still at Duke University, and he has to be very, very careful about what he says, because he's responsible to the university still. So that's just like Dr. Jason Fung. If you listen to his videos, he's very careful about what he says as well, because he's in the Canadian medical system, and he wants to continue to be a doctor. Therefore, he has to be careful of what he says. So I like Dr. Westman. I like Dr. Westman a lot, but you have to understand where he is coming from when he says things in his videos as well. Hello from Portlandia, home of vegans and all kinds of weirdness. 62 years old and feeling better and better on Carnivore all the time. Welcome. So I'm assuming you're in Oregon. Thank you very much for the super sticker. Thanks for joining us today. And for those of you, I am over an hour now, and I do have to. Oh, thank you. I've got another super sticker there. Thank you, Kismet, for the $5 super sticker. That stuff means so much to me, guys. You have no idea how much it means to an old guy on a retired fixed income. But thank you very, very much for being here today, folks. I do have to go now because I've got about an hour to get out the door and get on my way up to work. But don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for coming today.